Hello, bonjour. Welcome to the Jeremy Scott program. I'm coming off a string of great interviews, some amazing guests. I had some local comedians. I had a national touring comedian come on. I had a local business owner come on. And then I just haven't been on here for more than 7 days. This is supposed to be a weekly show, and I haven't been on here in over a week. I wish I had an explainable absence. I wish I could have an excuse for you that I was doing something important. I had some shows, but I always have shows. You know, I wasn't overseas. I wasn't striking some big business deal. We do have a little thing going on right now with the local show that I host. This might be funny. We got some new things coming with that, but that's not the reason why. It's just pure laziness. You know, I wasn't out at Saudi Arabia Jihad Comedy Festival getting paid a bunch of money. You know, I'd be like, yeah, look at my new jacket I got from my $300,000 paycheck for singing for the Princes. They would have me over there singing. They'd see my act and be like, don't do that. You just sing, little man. And I'm like significantly taller than they are, so it'd be funny for them to call me a little man. No, I've been trying to reinvent the show. I got to reach a younger audience. So I keep going through ideas. What am I going to do? How am I going to make this show what I think it deserves to be? And I got nothing. I tried a Zin once. That didn't go very well. I was working construction, and all the guys on the site, they were younger than me. I was like 10 years older than most people I was working with, and they all liked those little Zin nicotine pouches. So one of the times when we were up, we were actually just finishing the trim up on the top. So I was up on a very long ladder, and I was just like, can I try one of those? He's like, yeah, sure, buddy. Gave me it, and I was like, what do I do? He's like, yeah, just jam it up in your gum. You'll be good. Yeah, so I started to feel it, burn for a second, and then I started to feel it. It felt like my first cigarette, but I had like 3 of them. Yeah, it was good. It was really good. And then I fell off the ladder because I got lightheaded and dizzy because it was like having my first cigarette. I'd smoked before. People who've watched the show know that I dabble in the nicotine a bit, but I don't do these. And I think it was like 14 or 15 milligrams. I guess that's a lot for somebody that doesn't regularly smoke or partake in the Zins. So yeah, 1 minute I'm up on the ladder. The next minute I'm on the ground just looking up like, whoa, what happened? Tucker Carlson, as a ghost, force ghost, Tucker Carlson appeared over me, and he's just like, wow, you were up on the ladder a minute ago, and now you're down here. How did that happen? I usually like Zins. I guess you don't like them. I never tried it again. I didn't do Zins again. I don't do online gambling. I recently went and started looking at some apartments, and then I was like, I should probably go buy a lottery ticket. I don't know if what it's like where you're from. I'm assuming most of you watching this live in New Brunswick, so you get it. But maybe you don't. Maybe you live somewhere where rents are still like normal. Like you could spend $800 a month and have an okay place. That's not the case here in New Brunswick. Not in Fredericton, New Brunswick. I'm sure I could get something a little cheaper outside of town, but I gotta live where I am. So, and I'm not gonna be homeless. I gotta live somewhere. So I was like, maybe I'll go buy a lottery ticket or just never have any money for a long time. And maybe I'll sell this jacket. I don't know. It's pretty nice. It's too big for me, but I just like it. You know, you really like a piece of clothing when it doesn't even fit right, and you're just like, I'm gonna wear it anyways. I'm just gonna embrace it. You know, maybe I'll get like really. I gotta be like James Gandolfini fat for this to like look perfectly fitted. But the loose look's coming back, I guess. It's a thing now. People wear clothes that don't fit. The baggy look's coming back. When I was really young, it was the baggy look, the G-Unit sweaters. Your jeans would just hang below your below your shoes and get all warped and messed up, and then everything was fitted. And I grew up in fitted. I became a man wearing fitted clothes. You know? I wonder if my semen count is still decent, right? Because I've been wearing a lot of fitted clothes for a long time, but now I'm getting back into the loose. Let those balls just hang out. That's what we're doing now. That's what we're doing. No, I don't want to end up be. I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to be homeless. I know the province wouldn't appreciate that. New Brunswick just started. They just started a task force to combat homelessness. Why is everything a task force? Does it like? Why can't it just be like, yeah, we're putting a group together? Why is it everything when the government does stuff? The government's not cool. They never do cool things. Like, nobody that is going to be on this task force looks like they could be on a literal task force. Like, that's like a police term. That's like something like a cop. They have guns. They're going to be busting doors down. They're going to get the bad guy. They got a task force. Not like they're just going to sit around a room and just discuss ideas, I guess. The task force is going to work to understand the homeless issue and then and find ways to combat it, you know? Like, they're going to work on mental health and put more money into housing, I guess. I'm not going to see that. I know all the talk of, like, rent caps and stuff like that. I don't know where that is going. I don't know why rent can be $1,800 a month for a dive, but that's the way that it is. Yeah, so they're going to do this task force. They're going to, like, get together in a room and drink lattes and, like, talk about things. They might bring some experts in to, like, educate them onto why people become homeless because they don't get it. I don't think they get it. Maybe they do get it, but they don't do anything about it. So maybe I'm going to be an optimist here. Maybe they're going to try something different. Maybe they're going to try drugs. Maybe they're just going to sit around the table, pass the pipes around, and then just be like, all right, let's partake and see what the fuss is all about here. You're going to try meth? Okay, good. Yeah, we're going to figure this out, and we'll get an understanding. I want you to do some really heinous things to your family so they all abandon you. I mean, I know we're dealing with some politicians here, so maybe your family already doesn't like you, but we really need to understand the unhoused. So we need you to get hooked on drugs and to be abandoned by your loved ones and given up. And we want society to give up on you, pretty much. And then we're going to understand it. We're going to understand homelessness. Maybe they'll watch, like, some old VHS tapes of The Littlest Hobo. I know that won't help, but they're just going to do anything because they're a task force. And they're just going to try whatever they need to try to make that. How many times I haven't peeked the microphone yet? We're doing good on sound. The sound's going good. It's going good. Can I get one peek? One peek, please? No more peeks. Good stuff. Yeah, they sit around, they watch The Littlest Hobo, and then, you know, go home for the day. And then the next day come back, and then they come up with some more ideas, like maybe that we should have some safe injection sites at the Tim Hortons. Certain Tim Hortonses are okay. Some Tim Hortonses, that's basically where a lot of the unhoused choose to gather, and you know, they have to lock the bathrooms, open the bathrooms back up, get some needles in there, let them do some drugs. I don't know. Anything. You're a task force. You can figure it out. You know, teach these people social media skills. Bring them into our world. Let them be. They're crazy to us, but they're not crazy like we are. Let them come and be crazy like us. You know what? Why don't we get the homeless selling real estate? We could have a course for them. They could go stay somewhere at a kind of nice hotel, not too nice, but nice enough, and give them the taste of that life. They get them real estate licenses, and then they can be out selling homes. And every house they show, they'll really have the attitude of, like, this is a really beautiful home. They'll sell it better than some of the other salespeople are doing. You know, there's certain strategies to selling a home, and one of them is making the person believe that you think that this is a nice home. You know, the other strategies are like, well, I'm going to dress like I'm an OnlyFans model and just, you know, be really, really hot, except when you show up to look at the house, and then I'm not going to be that hot. Whatever. They're going to do what they got to do. I hope none of you are out there sexually harassing real estate agents just because they dress like they're models. You know, they're making a living. And the homeless, maybe they'll do that. Maybe they'll be like, listen, you're not really great at the sales yet, so we want you to wear a skirt and some heels, paint those toes up. We want you looking special. Yeah, we're gonna cover the sores somehow. A lot of makeup, just makeup and filters. You'll be better. And then just sit around the table, just bring up all these ideas because they're a task force, and that's what task force do. And then the guy that brought up watching The Littlest Hobo, he doesn't really contribute a lot, but he just like randomly chimes in sometimes. He's like, you know what my favorite part about that show was? Is the dog didn't die at the end. I'm not going to spoil the end of The Littlest Hobo if you haven't watched it, but it's pretty interesting. It's debatable. Maybe the dog was an alien. Maybe there was a bunch of Littlest Hobos. Oh, on the road again, huh? Yeah, I listened to that song after I was looking at some very overpriced apartments. Being a hobo is not what it used to be. I remember when I was a kid, like the hobo was like the guy with the stick and then the bag hanging, and he's just adventuring and doing things. They had a story. You know, I don't the modern hobo. I mean, maybe there's a hobo watching this and they're like a real hobo and they're like the unhoused drug addicts. That's not a hobo. That's somebody suffering with like severe mental illness and untreated drug problems. It's not the same thing. The hobo was like a guy that just kind of was just like, I don't want to do the stuff. And you'd think there'd be more of them now, because like we get nostalgic about the 90s and the 80s and like thinking back to before cell phones, before all this, before every guy like me had a podcast. It was a different time. You'd think there'd be a lot more guys like that now, because back in the day, it would be like, I don't want to work with the man. You know, I don't want to just live to have an SUV and a mortgage. I want to be free. So they'd be a hobo. And they'd travel around and tell their stories to people and learn about the world. You'd think there'd be a lot more of them now. Maybe that's what they are. Maybe it's just hard to live outside. So then they're just like, just do some meth. I don't know. I'm not on the task force. Put me on the task force. I want to understand the unhoused. I want to understand the unhoused and have an opportunity to do something about it instead of just like having to be desensitized to it, because I see it every day and there's really nothing that I can do about it. I can barely afford to get an apartment for myself. I can't house somebody else. I left a birthday party celebration a couple of years ago, and like we had these giant platters of food and stuff like that, and nobody wanted to take the food, so I was like, I'll take it. And then I didn't really want to take it, but I just didn't want the guy that was there, the guy who was really overweight. I didn't like him, and I knew he was going for it, so I took them so he couldn't get them because I didn't like him, and I knew he really wanted them. So, and then once I got in my car, I was like, I don't want all these sandwiches and all this stuff. So I was driving by it was actually right beside the mental health hospital downtown in Fredericton. There's like a roundabout there, and I was like in the line coming up to it, and then there was like a guy out there asking for money, and then I just handed him the tray of sandwiches. I was like, hey buddy, go and feed your friends. Felt good. It felt good about it. And I think he did. He didn't just like look at me like some of them would. If you offered them something like that, they'd be like, I want the money. I don't want tuna sandwiches. But he looked happy to get them. I think he was very authentically unhoused. There's a spectrum here. There's people that are unhoused, that it's a lot of stuff, a lot of bad stuff. And then there's on the other side of the spectrum, it's just like some guy that tried LSD in high school and then just never looked back. And just, I don't want to be in an apartment. I have to clean the apartment. I get kicked out of the apartment because I don't clean the apartment. I just want to get high. I don't pay the rent because when I get any money in my pocket, it goes to the drugs. They need help. Get me on the task force. I could be the comedian guy. I'll be like, all right, we're going to turn The Littlest Hobo off because that's not doing anything. This is a good show, but we're not going to understand homelessness by watching The Littlest Hobo. We're going to feel good about ourselves, and it'll be like, oh, that's a good story. I love dogs. I wish I had a dog like that. It would save people. Probably go and find me a few extra bucks so I can afford an apartment. Help them understand it, right? I know the homeless situation is evolving too. A few years ago, there was like motorized bicycles everywhere. There were like these chainsaw-powered bicycles. You could just hear them going. Like if you were walking, you're like, oh, someone cutting a tree down. You're like, nah. This guy would go by on this bicycle, and then the whole trail would be full of smoke. Smell kind of. If you like snowmobiles, you're like, that smells kind of good, but it's not great. Yeah, the motorized bicycles are gone. They all have scooters now, which is kind of like bringing us together. Because like you got kids that ride scooters. You got like real estate ladies. They put on their sweatpants and their sneakers and they go and get a drink with all their bunch of monies that they get from selling houses. And then you got homeless people on the scooters. We're all the same. Is that a douche or is it a homeless person? You put a big pair of sunglasses on, you can't even tell the difference. And everybody's wearing sweatpants again anyways. The reality is that New Brunswick is growing. I went to a multicultural benefit dinner the other night, and a lot of the people that were on there were talking about the diversity of the province and how the province is growing, and they were really focusing on the positives of things. And I'm like, they're kind of right. The province is growing, where our population is becoming more diverse. There are more people. The food prices, they are growing. The rents, they are rising. It's everything is getting bigger. The only thing that hasn't gotten bigger is the price of weed. Weed's still the same price that it was when I was a kid. Apparently, it was more expensive before I was a user of the marijuana. I guess years ago, like in the 90s, it was more. I don't know. That's what I was told. But it was $10 when I was a kid, and it's still $10. I know the government spots, sometimes it's a little bit more, but realistically it's the same. It's still the same price, maybe a little bit more. It's supposed to be better quality. I don't know. The government a few years ago was running an ad campaign trying to tell people not to go to the illegal dispensaries. They didn't want them to go to the native dispensaries, and they used this catchphrase, "It's just not worth it." But I'd been to the native dispensaries, and it's totally worth it. Because they're charging the same prices as if it's 2005, except you go in, they're not wearing a G-Unit sweater. They're not, like, venting about stuff, You can talk about 9/11 if you want, but they're just going to move you along. They need to get to the other customers. Yeah, the province is growing. Things are getting more expensive. I looked at an apartment the other day. It was $1,800 for a 2-bedroom apartment. The guy who was showing me the apartment was like a total salesman. Just sales through and through. Just selling everything. The guy literally wakes up and watches The Wolf of Wall Street and is like, that's a feel-good movie. Tries to make it into a Christmas movie. Maybe there was I haven't watched it in a long time. Maybe there was a scene about Christmas in there. It doesn't even need to have that. If Jordan Belfort in the movie said something was like Christmas, like you got all the blow, and he's like, oh, it's gonna snow, it's like Christmas, then boom, then that's all this guy needs to be like, this is a Christmas movie, we're watching this with the kids. He loved it. He loved the sales. The place was a dive, and he's sitting there like just selling it to me. It didn't have an air exchanger, didn't have a mini split in there. It had baseboard heating and had a thermostat in the living room and a thermostat in one of the bedrooms, and he's just selling it. He's just like, what's nice about this place is that maybe you want it to be a little warmer in this room than you do in that room, and you can do that. And I'm like, buddy, come on now. What are you doing here? Go sell a Lexus. He drove a Lexus. Not a good look. If you're a slumlord, buy a not nice car. Buy something that's like, okay. Get a Camry. Do not show up to show a dive apartment that you're charging way too much money for and be driving a black Lexus. Years ago when I was looking at an apartment, I saw an apartment from this guy, and it was the same thing. Like, there was mold in there. It just looked like a dive. He just wanted to get the deposit out of me right now. He's like, yeah, if you give me the deposit today, I'll secure the apartment and I'll have that fixed before you move in. I'm like, thank you very much. I'll think about it. Yeah, it was disgusting. It was disgusting. And it was like just weird too. Like the bathroom, it had the sink and then the toilet, and I was like, oh, there's no shower in here? He's like, no, this is the best part. So we walk out of the bathroom, and then because the bathroom is off of the living room, and then we walked towards what looked like a closet, like sometimes a living room, because the living room is the entryway to the house. It looked like, okay, that's a closet. Like you open the doors and that's where you hang your jackets and put your boots and your off-season stuff. You put it in there, you know. Maybe you could put a bicycle pump in there. I don't know. Put somebody unhoused in there, maybe. It's a little small. They probably would just prefer the street. But he opens the two doors, and I'm expecting jackets, and no, there's a tub in there. There's a tub in there and a little light in the closet. He's like, this is really nice. We had this all renovated and redid, and I'm like looking at it. I'm not a professional renovator, but I know the difference between new and not. And I was just like, what was that, like 10 years ago? He's like, yeah, around that. You didn't just renovate it. Why are you talking about renovations? If it was over 10 years ago, you didn't renovate it. Yeah, you renovated it from the original state because this house was built in like the 60s. And he's just selling and selling and selling. He's just like, yeah, those windows, I redid those windows. And I'm like looking at the windows. I was like, those are like 10-year-old windows. Yeah, they're not the original single pane. God, I left there just feeling gross. He's just like, I can work with you on the deposit too. Like if you want to pay half the deposit the first month and the other half the second month. And I was like, oh, is the deposit 1 month's rent? Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So $1,800 for rent. So $3,600 gets me into a dive, and then $1,800 every month. I'll buy an RV and live in the Walmart parking lot. That seems more fair. I could straight up. I don't have the screen up here yet. It's coming. The Jeremy Scott program has some improvements on the way. I'm gonna have digital graphics. It's gonna be fucking nice, but not right now. Not right at this moment. But just imagine I have a Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace screen up here, and I'm showing you RVs, campers and RVs that are like $5,000 to $10,000. We're going into the winter, so they're actually a little bit less now than they normally would. If you buy something like that in the spring, you're going to pay more for it. If you buy that out of season, it's like buying a snowmobile in the summertime, buying a snowblower in the buying an air conditioner in the middle of the winter. You'll get it for a little bit less. Someone just wants to get rid of it. They don't have the space for it, or they need the scratch. Maybe they need to go rent an apartment for $1,800, and they don't want to live in a Walmart parking lot. But hear me out here. Maybe you don't have kids, and you're in the position that I'm in, and you're like, I need a place, but I don't need it that bad. You could buy one of these. Pretend we're looking at a fucking Facebook Marketplace post. So we got this one up here for $5,000. This one's $12,000. That one has some accessories in it. You know, you got a propane powered stove. They say there's a tank there. It still has propane in it, so you can just hit the ground cooking. So you get those, right? You live in the Walmart parking lot. I know in the States they're getting rid of that, but here in Canada, you can still kind of do that. You just can't leave it there all the time. You don't put lawn chairs out. You can't have the little kiddie splash pool. You got to move it. So you're going to have to license this vehicle and insure it and stuff like that. That's fine. Live on the road. Maybe that is the modern hobo, is they got the tiny home camper vehicles. So anyways, you buy one of these, you live in it, you work, you save some money up, you get your credit better, you work on things until you can buy a house. You know, you need like 20 or 30 grand for a down payment now for the cheapest homes. But it's a possibility. So you live in the camper, and then when you're done with it, you sell it. Maybe not for exactly what you paid for it, but they don't seem, when you're buying them for that cheap, they don't just plummet in value. Especially if you clean it up a little bit while you have it. Tear out that old little carpet in there. Do a little bit of renovations. You're not paying $1,800 a month for rent, so you'll have a little bit of extra scratch. Clean it up. Then when you buy your house, maybe you keep the RV as like, hey, remember that old thing? That got us through some hard times. Or you sell it, and then it goes off to somebody else who doesn't want to pay like almost $2,000 a month for a dive apartment. It is what it is. It is what it is. I'm not going to be this guy that blames the economy. I'm not blaming anything. Everything in my situation right now is purely my fault. It's all my fault, okay? I went to school. When I went to high school, it was the time to get your shit together. It was the time to, like, we knew it was coming. It was just before the 2008 crash. We knew it was coming. I was in high school even when that crash happened. So we were warned. My generation was warned. Some of us, we went to trade school right away. We got decent jobs. We went out west. We didn't do drugs. We went out west. We worked, made some money, and then got a house, and then sold that house, got into another house, and maybe sold one more time, and then got into another one, and then now we're sitting on some equity, and we're okay. Maybe we're paying $1,000 a month for the mortgage, but we got a nice house. I didn't do that. All right? Now, I'm not blaming, and I'm not complaining either. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I think if I didn't go that path that I did, I might not be the comedian that I am right now. I might not have the insight into life. I might not have had the experiences. I might have ruined it all. I might have gotten a house and a wife who's really hot, who then sleeps with my best friend, and then I'd shoot him, and now I'm in jail because I did something bad, because I was wronged and my heart was broken. It didn't happen to me. You know, those types of women, they had no interest in me because I didn't have the scratch that they looked for. I'm not saying scratch anymore. That's the last time I'm saying scratch in the rest of this episode. That's a lie. I'll probably say it again. The jacket just makes me feel like I'm from New York. I just want to go get a slice of pizza, you know. I want someone to give me attitude in the street and me like roast them really good and put on a little bit of an accent. Maybe I could have like a toothpick in my mouth. Like, girl, what are you talking about? You're a bum. You're a goofball. I just feel New York. Should move to Boston. Something. Yeah, so my generation was warned. So people that are my age that are complaining about the economy and they're complaining about stuff, we had our chance, guys. All right, now we got to go through the struggles. If you want to get back, you might have to take an apartment that is way overpriced, or you might have to buy an RV and live in the Walmart parking lot for a bit. All right, you're not going to think of Facebook tomorrow. I know it would be nice, you know, and maybe you buy a lottery ticket. You're probably not going to win. The odds aren't good. The odds are better at winning the lottery than they are in winning that McDonald's Monopoly crap, but there's still not great odds. And like there was a person that won the lottery here in Fredericton like a week or two ago, won like $1 million or a couple mil. So I'm like, okay, well, this area is ruined for a little while. I'll have to wait a month or two. It's not like I'm going to buy a lottery ticket tomorrow and then win $1 million too. I don't think it works like that. Don't go to the store that someone just won the lottery at. You want to go, and I think maybe I'm not uneducated. Maybe someone could type in the comments and give me some like advice on how to play the lottery. I know my dad, when I was younger, he had numbers he would pick. He would strategically work it. Like he would see the numbers that were there last week, and he had a strategy. Never won anything. His best friend who lived across the street from us, their whole family like pooled for lottery tickets, and they won like $500,000 one year. It's pretty cool. My dad just played it his whole life and never won a thing. So maybe I shouldn't go get a lottery ticket. I'm not going down that road. I'm just going to get this RV and move into a Walmart parking lot. That I was warned. I remember my history teacher in grade 10, Mr. Mitchell. You're probably not watching the show right now, but he told us, and that's who you need to listen to when it comes to things. People who are really, really into history, they have a little bit of insight in how things are going. They're good at looking at the big picture of things. Your science teacher, not so much. My science teacher, she I think she was sleeping with some students. I wanted to sleep with her, but she was into like AAA hockey players, and I played house hockey, so I just didn't have the chance. Anyways, she wasn't good at predicting the future. She was just really good at making science class sexy. But Mr. Mitchell, he taught us stuff in history class, and I remember him sitting down and laying it out, because there was a bunch of guys in my class, myself included, that would show up, and after we had partaken in the marijuana activities, and he knew that, and he wasn't just going to send us to the office. He knew getting kicked out of school was not the path for us, which isn't to be said for some of the other teachers that I had and the principal. They just were like, yeah, let's just get these people out of here. Anyways, so Mr. Mitchell warned us. He was like, guys, the way things are going right now, the bankers, the people that are making the money right now, they're making it, and they're not going to give it to you. You're gonna have to do things as you guys get older. You're gonna have to work really hard. You're gonna have to work a lot of hours. You're gonna have to be smart with your money. It's not gonna just be handed to you. And he laid that out with us. He was really intelligent. He knew a lot about this. He knew a lot about how the stock market was working and how wealth was being shifted to a smaller and smaller group of people, and that inevitably we are going to have less money, the rest of the population. We're going to have to deal with that. We're going to all be poor. So he's like, you guys are going to have to work hard. You're going to have to grow up faster than most people do. You're not just going to go get a normal job and be able to buy a house. Those days are over. He was telling us this. This was 2007. He's sitting there laying it out to us, and we're just sitting there like, it clicked with me. It did click with me because I stayed after class. I'd come down off the pot, and I was kind of scared. So I sat there, and I talked to Mr. Mitchell. Me and him had a good talk, and he told me that. So I had half of my leg in that. I would work at dead-end jobs, and I would at least be aware there were dead-end jobs. There were guys I would work at these dead-end jobs. They were just like, yeah, I don't care, man. I got enough to buy myself a bag of weed and a Colt 45, and I'm good. And I knew that. I was like, no, we're not good. I'm not good. I'm not good with this. I want more than this. And that's why I didn't stick it out with the dead-end jobs. I used to work at Walmart, McDonald's. I remember one day I was working at the Walmart McDonald's. I was going out for my lunch break to have a dart, and a girl that I'd had a few little encounters with at that point, she was walking into the Walmart, and she saw me, and I said, hey, what's going on? And she looked at me with my McDonald's uniform on. She's like, yeah, you're really going places, aren't you, Jeremy? Because she knew I just got kicked out of high school. Again, I was selling pot. I got kicked out of school. I was being charged with possession and a few other things. So she's like, yeah, you're really going places with your life, aren't you, Jeremy? And I was like, shit. I am going places, just not right now. I got to figure this out. And that night, my dad, who usually would pick me up after work, me and him got into a little bit of an argument over the phone, and then he said, you can get home on your own. And I lived out by the airport. So this is in St. John. I worked at the Walmart McDonald's in St. John, and my dad lived out by the airport. And there wasn't any buses after a certain time. And I didn't have any money for a bus, even if there was a bus. So I had to walk home. And I got like halfway up the road from the mall. Is the McAllister Drive? One of those roads. I was walking up the hill, like I could turn around, you could see all the malls and Walmarts and stuff like that. And then it started raining, like really raining. And I'm just wearing my stupid little blue not Walmart. I worked at McDonald's, but I worked at the McDonald's in the Walmart, but it was still the same McDonald's uniform. It was like this blue button-up shirt and black pants and black shoes and my stupid McDonald's hat with my little pin on it because I was a crew trainer and it doesn't matter. It's not the point. But it started raining. I turn around and I look and I see the Walmart and it's raining and I'm wearing this stupid McDonald's uniform and I could just hear her saying that stuff to me. Like, you're really going places, aren't you, Jeremy? So I just kept walking. And I was mad. It's a decent walk to walk up McAllister Drive, out Loch Lomond Road all the way to the airport. I just walked, and the rain periodically stopped. Cars would drive by, and I didn't even want to stick my thumb out. I was just like, if I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna make it on my own. That's gonna be the way that this has to be. I'm gonna make it on my own. So I just kept walking, and I kept thinking too. I'd see cars drive by, and I'd see nice cars, and I'd see shitty cars, and I was like, I don't want the shitty car. I don't want to drive the car with the exhaust leak. I was like, I know that guy driving that car with the exhaust leak isn't my age. He's middle-aged. I don't want to be that. I had this big life moment of like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get somewhere with my life? I'm not going to sell pot because clearly I wasn't very good at that. I'd get arrested again. So I was like, how am I going to do this? I was real with myself. I was like, I'm not smart enough to be a doctor. Maybe I'm smart enough, but I don't have the attention span to do that. I'd love to be an engineer, but I can't sit there and go through the books. I can't do that. It's hard to put those kind of hours in, and it's a different type of person. And I meet people that are like, I meet people that are engineers and doctors, and they tell me, they're like, I could never get on stage and do comedy. I could never do that. I'm like, well, you got something though. You got that's a nice SUV, nice big house. I'm not saying I'd give up comedy to have that. I don't know. I don't have the option isn't there for me. I don't know if I'd want to. It's not the point. So I'm walking. Starts raining again. I'm soaked head to toe. I didn't have a cell phone then, and it was just I was on my own, and it was like a big defining moment of my life. And then as I was walking, I saw because it was like it must have been trash day on Loch Lomond Road the next morning. People were gonna get their trash picked up, and there was this bicycle that was spray painted. The back tire was flat. The shifter, none of the stuff worked. None of the brakes worked on it. I managed to like bend the derailleur enough that it would stay in a gear, and I managed to bike myself the last of it home. So I think the last hour of walking got cut down to like 20 minutes, maybe less than that. It wasn't like a fixer-upper bicycle. Like it just, I got home with it and I chucked it right in the trash as soon as I got home. It was painted all these different colors, and it was a mess. It was a mess, but it got me home. So I just want to give out some thanks here. Mr. Mitchell, you tried, and I know a few guys that I went to that were in that class. One of them went on to be a contractor and making money, and I think he got divorced and whatever. He has a boat. It's probably pretty nice. And then lady who will remain unnamed, her name also starts with an M. Yeah, whatever. Monica, thank you very much for giving me the, saying the stuff. Had me something to think about. And then the junk bicycle. The junk bicycle for saving me that last little bit. And being like, the junk bicycle represented the opportunity in that walk. Because I was open. My mind was open to opportunity, and then the junk bicycle was there. I think some people might have saw the junk bicycle, climbed on it, and was like, oh, it won't stay in gear. I guess I'll just keep walking. But they don't recognize sometimes opportunity isn't exactly where you think it's going to be. Sometimes opportunity is you getting that little RV camper and parking up at the Walmart and living it for like a year. Getting some stories. Maybe you'll meet a hippie chick that's really into that, and she's really, really hot. If you're into the armpit hair, you might be really fun. But the bicycle represented the opportunity that not necessarily I would have asked for. Like I would, in my mind there, would be like, if it'd be nice for one of my friends who has a car right now to see me, stop, pick me up, and give me a drive the rest of the way. Or my dad being like, shit, it's raining out there and kiddo's walking. I should probably go pick him up. Something like that. But it wasn't what the opportunity that I wanted, but it was the opportunity that I needed, because that bicycle, that definitely saved me a lot. Definitely saved me a lot. All right, we'll move on to the news now, I guess. Getting into some life stuff here. So I don't know if you're familiar with the story about the ostrich farm out in BC. These ostriches, some of them contracted avian flu, and so the government wants to kill all these ostriches off. But the ostriches that had the flu, I guess they died. They were killed. Whatever. But the other ostriches don't have it. But the government's rules are if one of these birds contracts this, protocol is we got to kill them off. So much people are like defending this farm now and being like, no, you can't kill the ostriches. Like, they're alive. We could learn from these ostriches. Clearly the ones that didn't get sick, they've developed some kind of like natural immunity. There might be something. There might be something in their antibodies. We could learn from that. But the government's just like, nah, we're just gonna kill them all. It's kind of like in COVID. They're like, we don't want even to think about natural immunity. You either get the shot or you're gonna live on the street there, pal. Anyways, so yeah, the ostrich. Maybe you don't understand the ostrich too much. It's a big bird. We eat it. It's a lean, low fat, high protein meat. It's pretty good. I wanted to have some ostrich here to try it, but I'm saving up for an apartment, and I didn't see it at the grocery store. But I'm sure it's pretty good. I tried kangaroo when I was in Australia. That was pretty good. Very similar kind of meat, I think, where it's a lean, low fat, but a high protein meat. It's pretty good. So people eat the ostrich. That's what this ostrich is. We don't want to just kill them and throw them in the trash. We want to let them do their thing, go around the farm, and then we eat them later, because that's what we're going to do. So the government wants nothing to do with this natural immunity, but they got it in the courts now. The RCMP is there keeping the protests okay. Even RFK Jr. chimed in about this, saying what I just said about how like we could learn from these birds. They've clearly developed a natural immunity to the avian flu, and that could help us potentially synthesize like a vaccine for them. I know you don't take RFK Jr. as a guy pro-vaccine, but yeah, there's nuance to everything. Pull your head out of the gutter and read a book or something. Anyways, so he's sitting there saying, well, we should learn from these ostriches, and I'm all on board with that. I think we could learn a lot from the ostrich. All right? Hear me out here. All right? Outside of the natural immunity stuff, leave that with the doctors and the scientists and RFK Jr. Let them figure it out. What I'm saying is you and me here watching this right now, we could learn from the ostrich. I don't know if you've met an ostrich before. You look after you're done watching this video, look up a little video of them. They just walk around. They got their big wings. They got these really weird eyes, and they just kind of look around with their heads. They don't talk like a lot of birds. Most birds don't talk. A couple do, but these ones don't. They listen. I think they listen. I don't have a producer here to pull it up. Hey, box over in the corner. Did the ostriches have ears? I think they do. Let's just operate for the idea that they do. I think that the ostriches are great examples for a lot of you people out there, because the ostrich doesn't speak, it listens. It listens. I think it tries to understand. It sits there with its little eyes and its head, and it's just like, huh. And it tries to understand a little bit. And sometimes like, that's scary. I'm going to run away from that with my big goofy legs. The ostrich isn't posting on Facebook. The ostrich isn't getting into fights with their cousin over some political disagreement. I'm sure if one ostrich was just like, hey, I'm going to wear this red hat because I think this guy represents some things that I like, the other ostriches aren't going to be like, yeah, well, screw that ostrich. No, they all herd around together because they're like, all we have is each other right now. Those police out there with the guns want to shoot us. We gotta band together here and stop having little squabbles over stupid things. You know, ostriches they're not making OnlyFans. An ostrich would never pay $1,800 a month for an apartment. No, the ostrich they just live it. They just live it. You know? And maybe we're making the ostrich a political thing right now. Maybe the ostrich is sitting there like, I had nothing to do with politics. You know? A few of us got sick, and then we were like, yeah, I guess we're not sick. I guess we're okay. But the government's being like, well, you need to take this shot anyways. And the ostrich is like, whoa, pal, slow down. I'm not even that political. I just think that I'm healthy and I don't need to get shot. But you're like saying that I need to get the shot, and I saw one of them get shot, and he's not doing so great right now, so why do I need to get shot? The ostriches, they don't have transport trucks. They can't drive to Ottawa. And you know what's pretty messed up is I bet if the ostriches did have a giant protest in Ottawa, you might not be as against them as you were with the truckers. You might be like, maybe the ostriches have a point here. Maybe this whole like liberty and freedom thing is something we should try to value. Maybe. Be more like an ostrich, folks. I'm going to make sure that this show is on every week and we have the technological advancements we need to. If I have the opportunity to help somebody that's unhoused, I'm going to do that. Probably not. I don't have a lot of money right now. I hope that this task force is successful. I'm really thinking of the words that my history teacher, Mr. Mitchell, gave to me. You know, about like how you gotta tough it out. It's not going to be easy. You got to stop looking at how your parents did things, because what worked for them isn't going to work for us. We got to make our own. We got to make our own reality. Maybe it's buying an RV and living in the Walmart parking lot, or maybe it's taking that extra job and paying some crappy rent for a little while and taking some responsibility. Maybe I should go just watch The Littlest Hobo and see if I get some inspiration from that. I don't know. You guys have a great week. I'll see you soon.